Hello friends, welcome to Prashant IAS. So friends, in the last class, we have started our discussion with the making of our constitution. Okay, and in this class, we will continue our discussion with the objective resolution of our constitution. Okay, so friends, what was this objective resolution? So, the very objective of the Indian Constitution was represented in this document. Okay, so the very objective or the aim of Indian Constitution was given in the document called as objective resolution. Now, what does it mean? So, it means that what type of constitution do you want to make? What type of state do you want to make through this constitution? Do you want to make a sovereign state or a non-sovereign state? Do you want to make a secular state or a religious state? For example, secular state like India and religious state like Pakistan. Okay, do you want to make it a capitalist state or a socialist state? Okay, do you want to provide rights to your citizens? Do you want to guarantee justice to your citizens? Okay, so objective resolution is a document which contains the aim of the constitution, the objective of the constitution, or the philosophy of the constitution. Means what type of constitution do you want to make? What type of state do you want to make through this constitution? Now friends, the objective resolution to our constitution was moved by Jawaharlal Nehru in the first session of the Constituent Assembly. Okay, so in the first session of the Constituent Assembly, Jawaharlal Nehru presented this document to the Constituent Assembly. Okay, and in the last class, I have also told you that the first session of Constituent Assembly was held on 30th of December 1946. Okay, so on 30th of December 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru presented this document to the Constituent Assembly. And friends, on 22nd of January 1947, Constituent Assembly accepted or adopted this objective resolution. Means now this became the objective of our constitution. This became the aim of our constitution. Now friends, what were the features of this objective resolution? Okay, or what were the key provisions in this objective resolution? So, India is to be democratic, sovereign, and republic. Now, what does it mean? So, it means that the objective resolution this objective resolution aimed to make India a democratic country, a sovereign country, and a republic country. So democratic country means where there is the rule of people. Okay. So I have also told you about democracy in the previous classes, that there are two types of democracy: direct democracy and indirect democracy. Direct democracy where people directly makes law and administer the laws, and indirect democracy where the representative of people makes the law and they administer the law. Okay, so indirect democracy is also known as representative democracy. So in India, we have indirect democracy or representative democracy. So here people do not directly make law. Here the representatives of people make the law. Okay, now friends, it aimed to make India into a sovereign country. So sovereignty means the supreme authority. Okay, means India is independent in taking its decisions internally as well as externally. No internal or external power had the authority to influence the decision making of India or to dictate the India to take certain decisions. Okay, so India is sovereign means India is independent in its decision making internally as well as externally. No internal power or external power can influence in the decision making of India. Now, India is to be republic. Now, what does it mean? So, republic means a system where the head of the country is elected and not the hereditary. So hereditary means where the son of king becomes the king. Okay, but in republic system, son of king does not become the king. Okay, but a elected person, a really abled person becomes the king. For example, the head of Indian state is the president of India, and we all know that the post of the president of India is not hereditary, but president is elected. Now, friends, what was its next provision? So, India to have a federal form of government with the power distribution between center and the states. Means this objective resolution aimed to make India into a federation. Okay, and what is a federation? So, federation means a system of government where are two levels of government. Okay, so where there are two levels of government, one government at central level and one government at state level or province level. Okay, and both the governments have equal power. Okay, there is a clear cut distribution of power between central government and state government. None is subordinate to other, none is inferior to other. So if we take the example of India, then we can see that there is a government at the central level. So currently Modi government is ruling the center. Okay, and there are governments at provincial or state level. For example, in Madhya Pradesh there is the government of Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Okay, in Uttar Pradesh there is a government of Yogi Adityanath. So there is a government at central level and there are governments at provincial level. Now friends, what was its third provision? So India to provide freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, association and action. Now what does it mean? It means that Indian citizens will have the freedom of thought. Now what is the freedom of thought? So freedom of thought means you can think whatever you want. Okay, if you want to think that you are a billionaire, then you can think so. If you want to think that you are a king, then you can think so. And friends, practically we cannot control the thinking of a person. Okay, so in India we have the freedom of thought. We can think what we want to think. Now Indian citizens have the freedom of expression. Okay, and we can see the freedom of expression in Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. Freedom of speech and expression. Now what is freedom of expression? Freedom of expression means you have the right to express. You have the right to express what you are thinking. Okay, for example, if you are thinking that government is not good, suppose I am just saying, if you are thinking that the government is not good, then you have the right to speak against the government. Okay, you have the right to speak against the government. It means that you have the freedom of expression. You can express your thought. Now this freedom is very important. Okay, now friends, Indian citizens will also have freedom of belief and freedom of faith. Now what does it mean? It means that you can believe in whatever thing you want. For example, if you want to believe in left politics, then you can believe. If you want to believe in right politics, then you can believe. If you want to believe in BJP, then you can believe. If you want to believe in Congress, then you can believe. Okay, means you can believe anyone you want. You can believe in any ideology you want. If you support communist ideology, then it's okay. No problem. If you support liberal ideology, then also it's okay. Okay, now what is freedom of faith? Freedom of faith means you can have faith on any god, on any religion. Okay, you can have faith in Islam. You can have faith in Hinduism, in Buddhism, in Christianity. Okay, no matter who you are. Suppose you are a Hindu, but then also if you have faith in Christianity, then you can have your faith in Christianity. For example, if you are a Christian and you have your faith in Hinduism, then you can have your faith in Hinduism. Now, what is freedom of worship? Freedom of worship means you have the freedom to worship the god of your choice. Okay, for example, if you want to worship Lord Ram, so definitely you have the freedom to worship Lord Ram. If you want to worship Lord Krishna, then you have the freedom to worship Lord Krishna. You can worship Jagdamba. You can worship Lord Goddess Kali. Okay, you can worship Allah, Jesus. Okay, Gautam Buddha. Means you can worship anyone you want. Even if you want to worship the devil, then you have the right to worship the devil also. Means no one won't stop you. Now, what is the freedom of association? So, freedom of association means people have right to form groups. People have right to form associations. For example, laborers have right to form their labor union. Okay, traders have right to form trade association. Okay, and then they can negotiate with the government. They can negotiate with their job providers. For example, many laborers, by forming a labor union, they can negotiate, they can talk with their job provider, with their capitalist owner. Now, what is freedom of action? So, freedom of action means what you are thinking, what you are expressing, you can also take this thing into your action. For example, if you think that the government is not good or government has passed any bad law and that law can affect you and your community, then you have the right to protest against the government. Means you have the freedom of action. You can do anything you want. Okay, but there are certain restrictions also. So I will teach you this topic in detail when I will teach you Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. Okay, because these freedoms are given to us in Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. Now friends, what was its next provision? India to provide adequate safeguards to minorities, people from backward and tribal areas. Okay, so friends, we see the reservation policy in India. So what is reservation policy? So reservation is a kind of safeguard. Reservation is a kind of motivation, promotion to backward people, tribal people. Okay, so and there are many special rights and safeguard provided to minority communities. Okay, for example, in India, minority communities have right to form their educational institute. They have right to establish their educational institutions. Okay, they also have right to preserve their language, to preserve their culture. Okay, so means Indian government provides many safeguards and special rights to minority people and people from backward and tribal areas. And for example, we all know that reservation is provided to ST, SC and OBC. Okay, so this is nothing but a safeguard provided by the government. Now, what was its next provision? So, India to attain rightful and honored place in the world and contribute to the promotion of world peace and welfare of mankind. So, what does it mean? So, friends, at that point of time, India did not have any respect in the world. Okay, why? Because India was dependent on Britishers. Okay, and recently India got independence from Britishers. Okay, so at that point of time, India didn't have much money. India didn't have much resources, and definitely, so India didn't have much respect and honor in the world. So it was the aim of India and the Indian government to attain respect, to attain honor in the world. Okay, to attain honor and respect in the world. Okay, now it was the duty of India to contribute to the promotion of world peace. Okay, so for example, we can see the policy of non-alignment followed by Nehruji. Okay, so Nehruji followed the policy of non-alignment. And what was the policy of non-alignment? Non-alignment means we were not towards USA or USSR. Okay, we were non-aligned. Okay, we were neither inclined towards USA and we were also neither inclined towards USSR. Okay, so what we were doing? We were actually stopping these countries from entering into war. Okay, why? Because we were not supporting anyone. We were non-aligned. So we were stopping those countries from entering into war. So what we were doing? We were actually contributing to the promotion of world peace. Okay, and also the welfare of mankind. Okay. Now friends, suppose whenever there is any function, or for example, suppose there is a marriage in your house. Okay, then there are many different kind of works in any function. Okay, and all these works are distributed to you and your siblings and your relatives. Okay, so different works are allotted to different people. For example, one work is to attend the relatives, one work is to cook the food, one work is to serve the food, one work is to decorate the house. Okay, so means different people are responsible for different works. Similarly, when constitution was made, okay, so there were many committees. Now what was the role of these committees? What was the function of these committees? So the function of these committees was to deal with different tasks of the constitution making. Okay, so for example, whenever there is any function in your house, so different tasks are handed over to different people. Similarly, when constitution was being made, so there were many different tasks. Okay, there were many different tasks. For example, there was a task to decide that what power should be given to center, what power should be given to provinces. Okay, which fundamental rights should be given to the people of India. Okay, so different tasks were handed over to different committees. Okay, and these committees were known as constitutional committees or the committees of constituent assembly. Okay, the committees of constituent assembly. Now friends, there were many major and minor committees of constituent assembly. So here we will discuss about some of the major committees of constituent assembly. Okay, so there was a committee named as Union Power Committee, and Jawaharlal Nehru was the head of Union Power Committee. Okay, now Jawaharlal Nehru was also the head of Union Constitution Committee. Okay, so there was another committee known as Union Constitution Committee, and Jawaharlal Nehru was the head of it. Okay, now friends, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was the head of, or was the chairman of, okay, we can say chairman. So he was the chairman of Provincial Constitution Committee. Okay, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was the chairman of Drafting Committee of the Constitution. Okay, now Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was again the chairman of Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribal and Excluded Areas. Okay, so who was the chairman of Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities, Tribals and Excluded Areas? Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Okay, now friends, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the chairman of Rules of Procedure Committee. Okay, and similarly, Jawaharlal Nehru was again the chairman of States Committee, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the chairman of Steering Committee. So friends, these were the major committees of Constituent Assembly. Okay, so friends, what were their work? So it is not relevant for our exam because these type of questions are only asked in prelims. So here you should only remember that who were the chairman of which committee. Okay, so here we need to remember that who was the chairman of which committee. Now what was the function of which committee? It is not relevant for us. Okay, but drafting committee is very important. So we will study about drafting committee in detail. Okay, so there were different functions of different committees. For example, Union Constitution Committee was responsible for making the provisions of central government, constitutional provisions of central government. Okay, Provincial Constitution Committee was responsible for making the provisions for discussing, deliberating on the provisions relating to the provinces or the states. Okay, similarly, Drafting Committee was responsible for making the draft of the constitution. Okay, Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribal and Excluded Areas. So what was their work? Their work was to decide that which fundamental rights should be given to the citizens of India, and what should be the provisions regarding minorities, tribals. Okay, so what should be the provisions in constitution regarding the minority people, tribal people, backward people. Okay, so friends, there were many committees and different tasks or works were assigned to different committees. Okay, and here we only need to remember that who was the chairman of which committee, because this can be asked in prelims, but question can never be asked like what was the function of which committee. Okay, so and what drafting committee was very important. So now we will study about drafting committee in very detail. So friends, drafting committee was set up on 29th of August 1947. Okay, so when it was set up or established on 29th of August 1947. Now what was the function of this drafting committee? The function of this drafting committee was to prepare a draft of new constitution. A new constitution was to be made, means the constitution of India was to be made. So the work or the function of this drafting committee was to prepare or made a draft for that constitution. Now what is draft? So draft means a rough. For example, when you do your fair classwork, okay, when you do your homework, okay, so before doing, for example, when you do your maths homework, okay, so before noting down the answers in your fair copy, what you do, you first of all do all the calculations in a rough copy. Okay, so before noting down the answers in your fair copy, what you do, you first do all the calculations in a rough copy. So similarly, draft means a rough sketch of the constitution. Draft means it was not the final constitution, it was just a rough sketch of the constitution. Okay, so what was the function of drafting committee? The function of drafting committee was to prepare a rough sketch of the constitution. Now friends, there were 7 members in that drafting committee. So Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was the chairman of this drafting committee. Okay, now friends, drafting committee was the very important committee. Why? Because draft of the constitution was a very important document. Because on that draft only, the entire constituent assembly will discuss and they will decide that what should be the provisions in the final constitution. Okay, so draft was a rough of the constitution. And who made this draft? The drafting committee made this draft. Okay, and who was the chairman of this drafting committee? Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was the chairman of this drafting committee. And due to this reason only, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar is known as the father of the constitution. Okay, so why Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar is known as the father of the constitution? Because he was the chairman of drafting committee. What was drafting committee? Drafting committee was made to make the first rough sketch of the constitution, to make the draft of the constitution. Okay, now friends, N. Gopala Swami Iyengar was the second member. Third member was Alladi Krishna Swami Iyer. Fourth member was Dr. K. M. Munshi. Fifth member was Sayyid Muhammad Saadullah. Sixth member was N. Madhav Rao. And seventh member was T.T. Krishnamachari. Okay, now friends, you need not to remember the name of all these members. Okay, but you should remember this, who was the chairman. So Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was the chairman. And you should try to remember that there were 7 members in the drafting committee. But their names are not important for our exam. So please do not remember their names. Okay, now friends, how they made constitution. Okay, means how they made the draft of the constitution. So what they did, these all members studied many constitutions across the world. So I think that they studied approximately more than 60 constitutions of the world. Okay, so friends, I don't remember the exact number, but as far as I think, they studied more than 60 constitutions across the world. Okay, so they studied constitutions of many countries. And what they did, they just copied good provisions from these constitutions and pasted these provisions in the draft of the Constitution of India. Okay, and then what happened, that first draft of Indian Constitution was ready in October 1947. So imagine friends, constitution making is a very different task. Okay, very difficult task, sorry. Constitution making is a very difficult task. Okay, but they made the first draft of the constitution within 2 months. 2 months is a very less time to make a constitution. And the drafting committee made the first draft within 2 months. How? What they did? They just copied the good provisions. They just copied the provisions from other constitutions and they pasted these provisions in the draft of the constitution. Okay. And definitely first of all, they considered about the situations of India and what provisions should be good for India. Okay, and after that, they copied these provisions and they pasted these provisions in the draft of Indian Constitution. And due to this reason only, Indian Constitution is known as bag of borrowings. Okay, means Indian Constitution is known as bag of borrowings. Why? Because the provisions of Indian Constitution are adopted from many constitutions. So now we will see that which provisions of Indian Constitution are adopted from the constitution of which country. So friends, parliamentary system, law making procedure, rule of law and single citizenship. These provisions were adopted from the Constitution of United Kingdom. Okay, so parliamentary system, law making procedure, rule of law and single citizenship, these provisions were adopted from the Constitution of United Kingdom. Now what is parliamentary system? So I have also taught you this in the previous lectures, that there are in any indirect democracy, there are two forms of government. There can be two forms of government, either parliamentary form of government or presidential form of government. So what happens in presidential form of government, that all the three organs of the government, legislature, judiciary and executive, are totally different. Okay, means there is no overlapping. They are totally different bodies. What happens in parliamentary form of government, that judiciary is a separate body but executive is a part of legislature. What does it mean? It means that all the members of executive are chosen from within the membership of legislature. Okay, now friends, in future classes I will teach you about the difference of parliamentary system and presidential system in much detail. Okay, now what is law making procedure? Law making procedure means how to make a law. For example, any ordinary law in India is passed by a simple majority of more than 50%. Okay, so how to make law? This is law making procedure. So we adopted the law making procedure from UK. Now what is rule of law? Rule of law means law is supreme. Okay, means there is the rule of law in the country. No one is above law. Everyone is subordinate to law. For example, if there is a billionaire man in the country, if there is a very rich man in the country, okay, then he is also subordinate to law. Prime Minister is also subordinate to law. President is also subordinate to law. So law is real king. There is the rule of law in the country. And there is not the rule of any party, not the rule of any person, but there is the rule of law. So law is the real king. So, and in the future classes, I will teach you about the meaning of rule of law in much detail. Okay, now what is single citizenship? So friends, what happens in the countries like USA, in true federal countries, that there is dual citizenship. So dual citizenship means you are the citizen of country as well as you are the citizen of your province. Okay, but in India there is single citizenship. Means, for example, you are only the citizen of India. You are not the citizen of Kerala. You are not the citizen of Uttar Pradesh. Okay, you are only the citizen of India. And actually you are domicile of Kerala. You are domicile of Uttar Pradesh. Okay, but you are not the citizen of Uttar Pradesh. So single citizenship means we are only the citizens of country. We are not the citizens of our state. Okay. Now, what provisions we adopted from Government of India Act 1935? So, federal scheme. So, we adopted federal scheme from Government of India Act 1935. So, what is federal scheme? Federal scheme means federal form of government. So, what is federal form of government? So, where there are two levels of government. One government at center and one government at state. And there is a clear-cut demarcation of power. There are separate powers for center, separate powers for state. And both are equally powerful. So in India, we can see that there is a government at central level and there are governments at provincial level. So in India, we have adopted this federal scheme from Government of India Act 1935. Okay. Now friends, we have adopted the office of governor from Government of India Act 1935. Okay. So I have taught you that there used to be a governor of the provinces. Okay. And governor was the head of the province. Okay, so similarly, in today's time also, we have governor of state. For example, we have governor of MP, governor of UP. So we have adopted the office of governor from Government of India Act 1935. Okay. Now friends, we have adopted the judiciary from Government of India Act 1935. For example, there is a Supreme Court of India and there are high courts. Okay, and below high court there is a district and session court and then subordinate courts. So we have adopted this structure of judiciary from Government of India Act 1935. Okay. Now friends, I have also told you about public service commissions in the previous classes, that there was a federal public service commission, provincial public service commission, joint public service commission. Okay, and their role was to appoint the civil servants. So we have adopted these public service commissions from Government of India Act 1935. Okay. Now emergency provisions were also adopted from the same act. Emergency provisions means, for example, there is a war, external aggression or armed rebellion in the state. Then what are the powers of the government? What government will do in these circumstances? Okay, what happened to constitutional provisions in these circumstances? So these are emergency provisions. Now administrative details were also taken from Government of India Act 1935. So what are administrative details? For example, the bureaucracy of India. Okay, the post of IAS officer, the post of IPS officer. Okay, so this entire bureaucracy we have adopted from the Government of India Act 1935. Okay, now friends, which provisions do we adopt from USA? So we adopted fundamental rights from the Constitution of USA. Okay, so what are fundamental rights? So fundamental rights are certain rights, okay, which are guaranteed to the people of a country. For example, in India, for example, in Indian Constitution, fundamental rights are given from Article 12 to Article 35. Okay, so we have many fundamental rights. For example, right to equality, right to freedom of speech and expression, right to form associations, okay, right to life. Okay, so we have many fundamental rights. So what are fundamental rights? So fundamental rights are those rights which are guaranteed by the fundamental law of the country. And what is the fundamental law of any country? Constitution is the fundamental law of any country. Okay, so actually this is a very layman definition of fundamental rights, that fundamental rights are those rights which are guaranteed by the fundamental law of any country. So this is a very layman definition. Okay, but friends, I will teach you the actual definition when we will take the chapter of fundamental rights, because there is a dedicated chapter for fundamental rights in our constitution. Okay, there is a dedicated part. Okay, now we have adopted the independence of judiciary from USA. Now what is independence of judiciary? It means that judiciary is independent of executive as well as legislature. Okay, judiciary is totally independent of them. Means there is no control of executive and legislature over judiciary. Now friends, we have adopted the process of judicial review from the Constitution of USA. So what is judicial review? So judicial review means the power of judiciary to review the actions of legislature as well as executive, okay, and to declare them null and void if they have violated the constitution. Okay, so our judiciary means our Supreme Court and High Courts also have this power to review the action of legislature as well as executive, and if they are unconstitutional, then judiciary has the power to declare them void. Now friends, what is impeachment of the president? So if president has violated the constitution, okay, so on this ground president can be removed. Okay, so then how president will be removed? So we have adopted this process from the Constitution of USA. Now the process of the removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges, this also we have adopted from USA. Okay, now friends, the post of vice president, okay, so we have also adopted this post from USA. Now what provisions we adopted from Ireland? So we have adopted directive principles of state policy from the Constitution of Ireland. Now what is this directive principles of state policy, or DPSP? So actually they are the set of rules which the government have to follow while making the public policy or the laws. Okay, so they are the set of rules, okay, which governments have to follow while making the policy for the public or while making the laws. Okay, so we will discuss about DPSP in detail later on. Okay, now friends, the procedure of the election of president, we have adopted this also from. So friends, we have adopted the procedure of the election of president from the Constitution of Ireland. Okay, now the nomination of members to Rajya Sabha was also adopted from the Constitution of Ireland. Okay, so I have told you in the previous classes that 12 members are nominated in Rajya Sabha. Okay, so this was adopted from the Constitution of Ireland. Okay, now friends, what we have adopted from Canadian Constitution? So federation with a strong center. Now what does it mean? So in theory, India is a federal country. Okay, means there is a central government, there are state governments, but actually the central government of India is very powerful. The state governments of India are not that powerful. Okay, so we have adopted this feature from the Constitution of Canada. Okay, so central government have many special powers. Central government even have power to punish the state governments. Okay, and central government becomes very powerful during emergency. Okay, so we have adopted this feature from Canada. Now vesting of residuary powers in the center. Now what does it mean? So friends, I have explained you in the previous classes that what are residuary powers. For example, India is a federation, so there is a division of power between center and state governments. Okay, there are three lists: union list, state list and concurrent list. Okay, so what is union list? So the central legislature means the parliament is empowered to make laws on union list. Okay, the legislative assemblies of states are empowered to make laws on the state list. Okay, and parliament as well as state legislative assemblies have power to make law on concurrent list. Okay, concurrent means it is a common list. Okay, but there are certain subjects which are not the part of union list, state list or the concurrent list. Why? Because these subjects were not present at the time when constitution was made. For example, when the Constitution of India was made, at that point of time there were no computers and internet, so there were no cyber crimes. But later on, computer came, internet came, so cyber crimes came. So there arose a need for legislation on the cyber laws. So now who will make law on the cyber matters? So definitely these powers were given to center. Means the central government had the authority to make law on residuary list. Now friends, appointment of state governor by center. So in India, what is a practice? That the governors of the states are appointed by the president on the advice of the Central Council of Ministers. Okay, so this we adopted this feature from the Constitution of Canada. Now friends, what we have adopted from Australia? So we have adopted the concurrent list from Australia. So what is concurrent list? Means central government as well as state governments have power to make law on concurrent list. Means it is a common list. Now the joint sitting of two houses of parliament. Okay, so friends, at times there arises the need for the joint sitting of Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. Means there arises a need for the joint sitting of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha for the passing of bills. Okay, so when this need arises, I will teach you when I will teach you Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. But from the for the time being, just remember this provision was adopted from the Constitution of Australia. Okay, now friends, Article 19 Clause 1 gives us freedom of trade. Okay, so freedom of trade. So we have adopted this from the Constitution of Australia. What is freedom of trade? It means that the people of India have the right to trade in entire India. They have right to trade in any state. They can do any trade. Okay, and there are certain exceptions also. Now friends, we have adopted fundamental duties and ideal of justice in the preamble from the Constitution of USSR. Okay, now what are fundamental duties? So fundamental duties are certain duties, certain works, certain duties which are to be performed by the citizens of a country for country and the government, for the society. Okay, so fundamental duties are certain duties which are to be performed by the citizens of the country for country and the society. For example, it is our duty to respect our national flag, national anthem. Okay, so this is our fundamental duty. So we have adopted these duties from USSR. Now, what is ideal of justice? So when you will read the preamble, there is the ideal of justice, means political justice, economic justice, social justice. Okay, so from where it was adopted from the Constitution of USSR. Okay, now friends, what we have adopted from the Constitution of France. So we have adopted the Republic from the Constitution of France. Now what is Republic? Republic means the head of the state is not hereditary. Head of the state is elected. Okay, so who is the head of India? President is the head of India. So the post of president is not hereditary. Post of president is elected. Now, ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity in the preamble. These ideals were also adopted from the Constitution of France. Now, what is liberty? Liberty means freedom. Equality means all the people have equal. All the people are equal in the eyes of law. Okay, we all are actually equal. Okay, so whether it is a billionaire or it is a very poor person. Okay, so suppose there is a billionaire, means a very very rich person, and there is a very very poor person. So both of these persons are equal in the eyes of law. Okay, both of these persons will be given equal opportunities for their future, for their career. Means all the citizens of India are actually equal. So the Constitution of India guarantees to us the right to equality. Okay, and what is fraternity? Fraternity means brotherhood, means we all are brothers. So these ideals, means the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, were adopted from the Constitution of France. Okay, so friends, when I will teach you Article 14, I will teach you about right to equality in a very detailed manner. But for the time being, you just understand equality means all the persons are equal in the eyes of law. Okay, means whether he is very rich or he is very poor, they both are equal. Both will be given equal opportunities. Okay, now friends, what we have adopted from the Constitution of Germany, so the suspension of fundamental rights during emergency. Okay, so friends, during emergency, for example, war, external aggression, okay, or any internal disturbance, okay, means armed rebellion, certain fundamental rights are suspended. For example, if there is a external emergency means emergency due to war or external aggression. Okay, then Article 19 stands suspended automatically, means it is suspended automatically. Okay, but whether a emergency is internal or external, the president has the power to suspend all the fundamental rights except Article 20 and Article 21. Okay, so president on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Okay, so president on the advice of Council of Ministers had the authority to suspend all the fundamental rights except the rights under Article 21 and Article 20 during emergency. Okay, means if there is any emergency in the country, then president has the power to suspend your fundamental rights. But president do not have the power to suspend fundamental rights under Article 20 and Article 21. Okay, so when we will study about the concept of emergency, we will study about it in detail. Okay, for the time being, you just understand that the suspension of fundamental rights during emergency, this provision was adopted from the Constitution of Germany. Okay, now friends, procedure of the amendment of Constitution and the election of the members of Rajya Sabha, both of these things were adopted from the Constitution of South Africa. Okay, so I have told you that Parliament has the power to amend the Constitution. Okay, so what is the procedure to amend the Constitution? Okay, so this procedure was adapted from the Constitution of South Africa. Okay, and I have also told you that the members of Rajya Sabha are elected indirectly, means they are elected by the members of the legislative assemblies of the state. Okay, so from where this practice was adopted? This practice was adopted from South Africa, the Constitution of South Africa. Okay, now what we have adopted from the Constitution of Japan? So we have adopted the procedure established by law from the Constitution of Japan. Now what is procedure established by the law? It means that judge do not have his discretionary powers. Okay, judiciary, executive, okay, they have to act according to the words of law. Okay, means judiciary has to give his decisions according to the words of law. Executive has to act according to the words of law. Judge do not have the power to use his discretion. So I will explain you with the help of an example. So suppose friends, there is a man named Rahul. Okay, he killed someone out of anger by his rifle. Okay, so Rahul killed someone by his rifle out of anger. Okay, because he was angry. And what happened? There is another man named Ramesh. Okay, so what happened that Ramesh was going to Delhi. Okay, Ramesh was going to Delhi, and he was going to Delhi from his Scorpio. So accidentally, what happened that Ramesh hit a person and he killed the person from his Scorpio. But he killed the person accidentally, and Rahul killed the person by his own discretion. Means Rahul killed the person out of anger, but Ramesh killed the person accidentally. But if it is written in law that if anyone has killed someone, if a person has killed another person, then he has to be given capital punishment. Means he have to be given death punishment. Then judge is duty bound to give capital punishment to Rahul as well as Ramesh. Means here judge is not allowed to use his own discretion. Okay, so friends, later on I will also tell you about due process of law. Okay, so there is a procedure established by law and due process of law. So we will compare between two. Okay, that what is procedure established by law and what is due process of law. Okay, and we have adopted due process of law from the Constitution of USA. Okay, so we will compare between the two. Okay, and I will tell you in much detail that what is actually procedure established by the law and what is actually the due process of the law. Okay, so for the time being, you just remember that this procedure established by the law was adopted from the Constitution of Japan. Okay, so what is procedure established by the law? So actually it is a method of judicial review. Okay, so what is procedure established by the law? It is a method of judicial review. So in procedure established by the law, judge is not allowed to use his own discretion, to use his own mind. Judge has to act according to the provisions of the law. Judge has to act according to the words of the law. So if it is written that he has to be given death punishment, then judge is duty bound to give him death punishment. Okay, so later on when we will discuss about these topics in detail, okay, then I will also tell you what is due process of law. Okay, now friends, initially there were 22 parts in the Constitution of India. Okay, and one by one we will discuss all these parts. Okay, but after the amendments, okay, so there were many amendments to our constitution. So now there are 25 parts in the Constitution of India, including the subparts. Okay, so many subparts were added to the Constitution of India by various amendments. So initially there were only 22 parts in the Constitution of India, but now there are 25 parts including the subparts. Okay, now friends, when Constitution was enacted on 26th of November 1949, then there were 395 articles in the Constitution of India. But now after many amendments, certain articles were added and certain articles were removed. So now currently there are 448 articles in the Constitution of India. Okay, so you should try to remember these facts that now there are 448 articles in the Constitution of India. Okay, now friends, when Constitution was enacted, there were only 8 schedules in the Constitution, but now there are 12 schedules in the Constitution. So what is a schedule? So schedule is just like a list. For example, Schedule 1 is a list of states and union territories. Means what is Schedule 1? So Schedule 1 has the list. Schedule 1 is a type of list. Okay, and what is written in that list? Okay, so the names of all the states and union territories are written in that list. Okay, similarly Schedule 2 is salaries given to certain officers. Okay, now what is this? So means there are many officers, for example president, okay, speaker. Okay, so Schedule 2 mentions the salary given to certain officers. Okay, now Schedule 3 mentions the oath for certain officers. For example, how to administer the oath of president. What is the oath for president? Okay, how to administer the oath for speaker. What is the oath for speaker? Okay, so what is Schedule 3? Schedule 3 is oath. Okay, now friends, what is oath? Oath means a kind of pledge. Okay, now what is Schedule 4? Schedule 4 is the allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha. Now what does it mean? So friends, I have told you that there are different seats. There are different number of seats are allocated to different states in Rajya Sabha. Okay, for example, X number of seats are allocated to Madhya Pradesh in Rajya Sabha. Y number of seats are allocated to Uttar Pradesh in Rajya Sabha. Okay, so what happens that for each state the number of seats in Rajya Sabha is different. Okay, so how to allocate these seats? Okay, and how many seats should be given to which state? It is written in Schedule 4. Okay, so how many seats should be allocated to which state in Rajya Sabha? It is given in Schedule 4. Now, what is Schedule 5? So, Schedule 5 deals with the administration of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. Okay, so what are scheduled and tribal areas? So, these are those areas where the population of tribes is very much. Okay, means where tribes are more in number. Okay, where tribal people are living more in number. Okay, so in Schedule 5, there are the provisions of how to administer the schedule areas and tribal areas. Okay, now what is Schedule 6? So Schedule 6 is also administration of tribal areas. Okay, means how to administer the tribal areas. What are the provisions to administer the tribal areas? How to govern these tribal areas? And what are tribal areas? So tribal area means a area where the population of the tribes is more in number. Okay, no, this is not a technical definition of tribal area. When we will discuss the topic of tribal area, we will also discuss about the technical definition or the real definition. This is a layman definition. Okay, now what is the difference between Schedule 5 and Schedule 6? So friends, Schedule 6 deals with the administration of tribal areas in the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura. Okay, and Schedule 5 deals with the administration of scheduled areas in the rest of the states of India. Okay, so friends, Schedule 6 deals with the administration of tribal areas of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura. But Schedule 5 deals with the administration of scheduled and tribal areas of rest of the India, of rest of the country. Okay, now why this is so? Friends, the tribals living in Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura are very primitive. They have maintained the original form of lifestyle. Okay, so they are very primitive. So the laws governing these tribal areas should also be according to them. That's why there are separate set of laws for them. But the tribals living in other parts of the country are modern. Okay, they are not that primitive. They are primitive, but they are not that primitive. Okay, they have adopted the modern culture. Okay, so somehow they have become modern. Okay, they are primitive as compared to us, but they are modern as compared to the tribes of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura. Okay, so means they are not that primitive. That's why the rules governing them are different. Now what is Schedule 7? So friends, Schedule 7 deals with the power distribution between center and state. So I have told you that India is a federation. And in any federation, there is a clear-cut demarcation and distribution of power between the central government and the state government. Okay, so therefore there are three lists. Okay, union list, state list, and concurrent list. Central government means central legislature or the parliament has the power to make law on the subjects of union list. Okay, now who will make law on the subjects of state list? So definitely state legislature means state legislative assemblies are authorized to make law on state list. Okay, and parliament as well as state legislative assemblies can make law on concurrent list. Okay, so there are some subjects in union list, some in central list, and some in and some subjects in concurrent list. Okay, so we will discuss about in detail when we will see when we will study about the distribution of power. Now friends, Schedule 8 deals with the official language. Okay, means how many official languages are in India, which are the official languages of India. So there are total 22 official languages of India and they are given in Schedule 8. Okay, now friends, what is Schedule 9? So Schedule 9, so what is Schedule 9? So friends, judicial review is not allowed on the laws which are included in Schedule 9. Okay, so I have told you that the Supreme Court of India and Indian judiciary has the power of judicial review. Okay, means they can review the action of legislature as well as the action of executive. Okay, and just now I have also told you that there are two methods of judicial review: procedure established by the law and due process of the law. Okay, means in procedure established by the law, judge has to act according to the words of law, and in due process of the law, judge is allowed to apply his discretion, to apply his mind. Okay, but friends, the laws which are included in Schedule 9, so judiciary has no power to do judicial review for the laws which are included in Schedule 9. Okay, so Schedule 9 is the schedule which has the list of all those laws on which judiciary do not have the power of judicial review. Okay, now friends, what is Schedule 10? So Schedule 10 is anti-defection law. So in order to understand what is anti-defection law, first of all you have to understand what is defection. So friends, for example, recently you must have listened that Jyotiraditya Scindia along with some of its MLAs and ministers have left the Congress, okay, and they have joined BJP. So this is defection. So defection means when you leave your parent political party. Okay, so defection means when you leave your original political party and you join some other political party. For example, Jyotiraditya Scindia left Congress and he joined BJP. So this is defection. Now friends, why do ministers or the MLAs or these leaders do defection? Okay, definitely out of greed, in order to take money, in order to get the position of minister. Okay, means what they are doing, they are just playing with the emotions and feelings of people, as well as they are wasting the money for their own greed, for their own selfishness. Okay, that's why there is an anti-defection law in India. Means this kind of practice is not allowed. Okay, so now what is the what are the provisions? So friends, for example, if any minister or if any MLA, if any MLA or any MP, MLA means member of Legislative Assembly and MP means member of Parliament. Okay, so if any MLA or any MP leaves his parent party, means leaves his original party, okay, and joins any other party, then he have to leave his post. Okay, means then he have to lose the membership of the house. Okay, for example, many MLAs along with Jyotiraditya Scindia left the Congress and they joined the BJP. So now they were compelled to leave the membership of the Legislative Assembly of India. Means now they were no more the MLAs. Okay, means now they were the ordinary persons. Now they were no more the MLAs. Okay, so according to anti-defection law, if any MLA or any MP does the defection, then he has to leave his post. Means then he has to vacate the membership of the house. Means now he is no more the member of the house. So this is anti-defection law. Now friends, what is Schedule 11? So Schedule 11 is rural local government. Okay, so what is rural local government? So panchayat. So you all must have listened about panchayats. Okay, so when we will study the topic of panchayats, then we will study it in detail. For the time being, you just understand that Schedule 11 has panchayats. Okay, and what is Schedule 12? So Schedule 12 deals with urban local government. Okay, so what is urban local government? It is municipality. Okay, and definitely when we will study about the topic of municipality, then we will discuss about it in detail. Okay, so friends, that's all for today. So friends, there is an important announcement that please do check the description of today's video, because I have provided the link of notes in the description of today's video. So please do check the description. Okay, so friends, in the end, I request you all to like the video, subscribe to my channel, comment, okay, and please inform about this channel to all the people you know who are preparing for UPSC. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you.